The rain began just after sunset. It wasn't a gentle drizzle, but a cold, determined downpour that seemed to wash the color out of everything. The cobblestone road leading to Ravenshollow Manor glistened under the carriage lamps, a slick ribbon of darkness snaking up the hill. Inside the carriage sat Eleanor Whitby, a 28-year-old journalist from London, clutching her leather-bound notebook. She had come a long way for this story, one that might either make her career or end it. Her editor had laughed when she told him she wanted to investigate the Ravenshollow hauntings. But Eleanor didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in secrets. And Ravenshollow Manor was said to have plenty of them. When the carriage stopped before the manor's wrought iron gate, the driver refused to go farther. "Not up there, miss," he said, shaking his head. "Not after dark." Eleanor sighed, pulled her cloak tighter, and stepped into the storm. The gate creaked as she pushed it open, the sound shrill against the thunder. Beyond lay a long, overgrown path flanked by skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the night sky. Lightning illuminated the house at the top of the hill, vast, old, and silent. A forgotten monument to another age. She reached the door and knocked 3 times. No answer. She tried again. Finally, the heavy door groaned open, revealing a tall man with silver hair and eyes the color of slate. He regarded her with mild curiosity. "You must be Miss Whitby," he said. "Yes," she replied, brushing rain from her face. "You must be Mr. Harrington, the caretaker." "I am." "You expected. Come in." The interior of Ravenshollow was dimly lit by oil lamps. Dust hung in the air like fine mist. Portraits of stern-looking ancestors lined the hallway, their eyes seeming to follow her as she walked. A clock ticked somewhere deep within the manor, steady and slow. Harrington led her to a drawing room where a fire crackled in the hearth. "You'll be staying in the east wing," he said. "Dinner is served at 8. The master will see you after." "The master?" Eleanor asked. "I was told the house was abandoned." Harrington gave a thin smile. "It was. Until last month." She was shown to her room, spacious but gloomy, with velvet curtains and a faint scent of lavender long faded. Eleanor unpacked her notebook, camera, and recorder. She wrote, "Day 1. Ravenshollow Manor. Rain. Mystery begins." Outside, the wind howled. Inside, something creaked in the corridor. She opened the door. No one. Only the flicker of candlelight reflected in the polished wood. At dinner, she met Lord Alistair Ravenshollow, a man in his early 40s with sharp features and a voice smooth as silk. He welcomed her cordially but with an undercurrent of unease. "I understand you're here to write about the manor's history," he said, pouring himself a glass of red wine. "Yes," Eleanor said. "The disappearances. The rumors of hauntings. The tragedy of your family." His hand paused over the glass. "Some histories are better left untold," he murmured. "But I believe the truth is never a danger to those who have nothing to hide," Eleanor replied. A faint smile crossed his lips. "Then you may find Ravenshollow enlightening." After dinner, she wandered the halls with her notebook. She noted peculiar details, scorch marks on one wall, a broken mirror in another, and a locked door at the end of the east corridor. When she asked Harrington about it, his expression darkened. "Best you keep away from that room, miss," he said. "It's not meant to be disturbed." Eleanor, naturally, resolved to return there later. That night, the manor came alive with sound. Footsteps echoed in the hall outside her room. A woman's laughter drifted faintly from nowhere. And at exactly midnight, she heard the old clock chime 13 times instead of 12. She wrote it all down. At dawn, she went to find Harrington, but he was gone. Only a single set of muddy footprints led out toward the garden. In the garden, she found an old fountain, long dry, and a statue of an angel with broken wings. At its base lay a half-buried locket. Inside was a miniature portrait of a young woman, pale, dark-haired, beautiful, with eyes hauntingly familiar. She pocketed it and returned to the manor. Later that morning, she met Beatrice, the housemaid, timid and soft-spoken. When Eleanor showed her the locket, Beatrice paled. "That's Lady Evelyn," she whispered. "Who was she?" "Lord Alistair's sister. She vanished 10 years ago." "Vanished?" "They said she drowned in the lake. But they never found her body." Eleanor's curiosity ignited like fire. That night, she crept through the manor with a candle and her camera. She reached the locked room. The keyhole was rusted, but a gentle push made the door give way with a moan. Inside was dust, decay, and something else. A painting, half-shrouded in a sheet. She pulled it free and gasped. The portrait was of Lady Evelyn, the same face from the locket. But her painted eyes seemed alive, her smile strained. And at the bottom corner, written faintly, "Forgive me, Alistair." Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. Her candle went out. A whisper brushed her ear, soft, sorrowful, female. "Find me." Eleanor stumbled out, heart racing. She spent the next morning questioning Alistair directly. He denied everything. "My sister was ill," he said coldly. "She wandered off and never returned. The lake took her, as it has taken many." But Eleanor noticed his hand tremble slightly when he said it. Over the following days, she pieced together fragments of the Ravenshollow legend. Servants spoke of screams from the east wing, of lights in the lake at night, of Harrington digging near the garden at odd hours. Eleanor decided to follow him. On the third night, under a crescent moon, she watched from her window. At midnight, Harrington appeared, shovel in hand, heading toward the fountain. Eleanor slipped out, following silently. He dug for nearly an hour before she dared approach. "What are you doing?" she demanded. He froze. Then, without warning, he struck a match, lighting a lantern. In its glow, Eleanor saw what he had uncovered, a wooden box. Harrington opened it. Inside was a woman's dress, white and tattered, stained with what might have been blood. He turned to Eleanor. "She's not at peace," he said. "None of them are." Before she could ask what he meant, they both heard a sound, a soft weeping, coming from beneath the earth. Harrington dropped the lantern in terror, and it went out. They fled. The next morning, Harrington was gone again. His room was empty, his bed unslept in. Eleanor informed Lord Alistair, who seemed genuinely disturbed. "That man has been with this house for 40 years, he murmured. "He would never leave without word." Eleanor decided she needed to see the lake. It was a bleak expanse of black water, still as glass. The trees surrounding it leaned inward, like mourners at a grave. She threw a stone, it vanished without a ripple. She crouched near the edge and noticed something glinting, metal. Reaching down, she pulled out a small silver bracelet engraved with initials, E.R. Lady Evelyn Ravenshollow. That night, Eleanor dreamt of the lake. In her dream, a woman in white rose from the depths, water streaming from her hair, eyes pleading. "Find the truth," she whispered, "before he buries it again." When she awoke, her window was open. On her desk lay the locket she had left locked in her trunk. And beside it, a single muddy footprint. Eleanor knew then she had to confront Lord Alistair. She waited until evening, when he sat alone in the study. "I know about your sister," she said. He looked up sharply. "You know nothing. I know she didn't drown. I know you've hidden something here. And I think Harrington knew too." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he rose, poured 2 glasses of brandy, and handed her one. "Come with me," he said. "You want the truth? You'll have it." He led her down to the cellars, cold, damp. and filled with the smell of earth and mold. They reached a heavy wooden door bound in iron. Alistair produced a key. Evelyn was in love, he began softly. With a man beneath her station, the gardener's son. I forbade it. He unlocked the door. When she refused to obey, I sent him away. She swore she'd never forgive me. The door creaked open, revealing a small stone chamber. In the center stood a coffin. I meant to protect her, he whispered. But that night she came to me, furious, wild. We argued. She fell. Struck her head. He looked at Eleanor, eyes glistening. I couldn't let the world think I murdered her. Harrington helped me bury her here. Eleanor stepped closer. The coffin was unsealed. Inside lay bones, delicate, fragile, wrapped in what remained of a white dress. And clutched in the skeleton's hand was another locket. This one contained a lock of Alistair's hair. A sudden wind roared through the cellar. Though no doors were open, the lamps flickered violently. Alistair gasped, staring into the darkness. Evelyn, he whispered. The temperature dropped sharply. Eleanor could see her breath in the air. A shape formed, faint, luminous, the outline of a woman. She reached toward Alistair, not in rage but sorrow. Brother, the whisper came. Free me. Alistair fell to his knees, sobbing. I'm sorry, he cried. Forgive me. The spirit's light brightened, then slowly faded. When it was gone, the cellar fell silent once more. Days later, the police arrived. They found Harrington's body near the lake, apparently drowned. Lord Alistair confessed to concealing his sister's death and was taken away. Ravenshollow Manor was sealed, pending investigation. Eleanor wrote her article, The Ghost of Ravenshollow, A Century of Secrets Unburied. It became the most talked about piece in London for months. But she never told anyone about the last thing she found before leaving. In the east wing, in the room where the portrait hung, she noticed the paint had changed. Evelyn's smile was gone. And behind her shoulder, faint but visible, stood the shadow of a man, tall, silver-haired, eyes of slate. Eleanor left the manor that afternoon, vowing never to return. But sometimes, when she wrote late at night, she could swear she heard the chime of that broken clock, 13 strikes, echoing softly through the dark. And she would whisper to the silence, Rest now, Evelyn. Rest? But somewhere, far off, in a forgotten house on a lonely hill, the echo always seemed to answer, I'm still here. 3 years had passed since Eleanor Whitby left Ravenshollow Manor. London had changed. Or perhaps it was she who had changed. Her article had made her famous, yes. But fame came with shadows of its own. Strangers sent her letters claiming to have seen Evelyn's ghost. Publishers demanded more, true hauntings. And every night, she still heard that 13th chime in her dreams. By day she walked the busy London streets, notebook in hand, hunting stories. By night she wrote until dawn, unable to silence the whisper of the manor's halls. But as the years passed, she told herself it was done, that the dead were at peace. And her life had moved on. Until the letter arrived. It was a stormy evening, much like the night she first arrived at Ravenshollow. Her maid brought in the post. Among the usual correspondence lay a single envelope of yellowed parchment, sealed with dark red wax. The seal bore the crest of the Ravenshollow family. Eleanor's breath caught. She broke it open. Miss Whitby, you do not know me. But I am in great need of your assistance. My name is Arthur Ravenshollow, son of the late Lord Alistair. The manor has fallen into silence once more, and strange things are happening again. I fear my father's sins have not yet been laid to rest. I beg you to return. You are the only one who can help me uncover the truth. The letter was unsigned beyond that. But at the bottom, faintly smeared, was a single muddy fingerprint. For a long time, Eleanor stared at it, her pulse quickening. Arthur Ravenshollow? She hadn't known Alistair had a son. In her investigation, there had been no mention of one. Still, something deep inside her stirred curiosity, dread, and something else, unfinished business. 2 days later, she boarded a train to Yorkshire. The journey was grey and endless. Rain streaked the window as the countryside rolled by like a sombre painting. When she arrived at the village nearest Ravenshollow, the locals recognized her name instantly. Whispers followed her through the inn. Back again, they muttered. The journalist who woke the dead. She spent the night in a small room above the tavern. The innkeeper, an old woman with sharp eyes, knocked on her door just before midnight. You shouldn't go back there, Miss Whitby, she said. That place eats the living and won't let the dead sleep. Eleanor smiled politely. I'm not afraid of old houses, she said. It's not the house you should fear, the woman murmured, but what the house remembers. At dawn, Eleanor hired a driver and set out. The manor appeared on the horizon like a bruise against the sky. The path was overgrown again, the iron gates rusted and half collapsed. Even from a distance, Ravenshollow looked older, lonelier, as if it had been waiting. When she reached the door, it opened before she could knock. A young man stood there, tall, lean, with Alistair's sharp cheekbones but softer eyes. Miss Whitby, he said. I'm Arthur. She nodded. You look like your father. I hope I'm nothing like him, Arthur replied quietly. Inside, the manor was different, yet the same. Dust hung in the air. But the furniture was covered now. But though in mourning, only one room showed signs of life, the library. A fire burned there, and a half-empty decanter sat on the table. Arthur gestured for her to sit. I've been reading your article, he said. You told the truth. More than most would have dared. I told what I saw, Eleanor said. What I could prove. He poured her tea with slightly trembling hands. And if I told you the hauntings have started again? Eleanor leaned forward. What kind of hauntings? Voices. Music in the empty rooms. Paintings moving. And last night, he hesitated. Last night, someone whispered my name from the lake. A chill passed through Eleanor. Has anyone else heard it? No. I'm the only one left here. The servants left weeks ago. They said the manor was cursed. And yet you stayed. It's my home. And if my father's spirit lingers here, I need to face it. Eleanor spent the evening exploring the manor. She found the locked room in the east wing again, now unsealed. Inside, the portrait of Lady Evelyn remained, her painted face still somber. But now, beside her in the painting, was no longer a shadow, it was a clear figure of a man in a silver coat, standing behind her. When Eleanor looked closer, she noticed something impossible. The paint was still wet. That night, she couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside. Somewhere in the distance, the clock began to chime. 12. Then 13. She sat up in bed, heart pounding. Someone was walking in the corridor. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Then came a whisper, faint, familiar. Eleanor, she threw open the door. The hallway was empty. But a candle burned on the floor, one she hadn't lit. Its flame guttered, then went out. The next morning, Arthur found her in the library, pale and silent. I heard her, she said. Evelyn. Arthur's face tightened. You're not the first. I think she's trying to warn us. About what? I don't know. But I've found something. He handed her a faded ledger, brittle with age. It contained entries written by Lord Alistair, confessions, notes, fragments of guilt. But one page stood out. Harrington lies. He swore he buried her beneath the cellar. But I dream of her by the water. If she rises, I am lost. Eleanor frowned. By the water, he meant the lake. Arthur nodded. I think my father lied to both of you. Evelyn isn't buried beneath the house. That afternoon, they went to the lake. The mist was thick, the air unnaturally still. Arthur carried a lantern, Eleanor her camera and notebook. Near the far bank, they found an old wooden boat half submerged in mud. Inside was a length of rope, and a woman's silver comb tangled in it. Eleanor's pulse quickened. She was here, she whispered. Arthur knelt beside the boat, brushing away reeds. Beneath them, half hidden, was a stone marker. Barely legible. But one word stood out, Evelyn. Suddenly, the air changed. The wind stopped. The water began to ripple in perfect circles. And from the depths came a sound, faint at first. Then rising, a woman's sobs. Arthur froze. Do you hear that? Eleanor nodded, unable to speak. The sobs grew louder, turning into a low wail. The lantern flickered, then went out entirely. And in the reflection of the lake, they saw her, Evelyn, standing beneath the surface, eyes open, lips moving soundlessly. Eleanor stumbled back. She's trapped, Arthur whispered. She wants something. Eleanor took a trembling breath. Or someone doesn't want her found. They fled to the manor, drenched and shaken. Arthur poured them brandy. She won't rest, he said. Not until the truth is known. Then we'll find it, Eleanor replied. We start with your father's study. They searched through the night, reading letters, contracts, journals. At last they found a locked drawer in Alistair's desk. Inside was a sealed envelope addressed to my son. If ever you return. Arthur broke the seal. My boy, there are things you must know. I loved your aunt dearly. But I destroyed her. Not only her, but the child she carried. Arthur stared at the page in horror. She was pregnant. Eleanor's blood ran cold. That's why he wanted it buried. It wasn't just guilt, it was shame. Another page fell out, a deed dated years later. It transferred part of the Ravenshollow estate, including the lake, to a man named Thomas Gray. Eleanor recognized the name instantly. He was the gardener's son, Evelyn's lover. So that's it, she said. Your father sent him away. But he returned. He must have known what happened. Perhaps he hid the body himself, or moved it. Arthur shook his head. Thomas Gray died before I was born. Then maybe someone else carried on his promise. Before they could continue, a crash echoed through the manor, glass shattering upstairs. They ran toward the sound. In the east wing, the portrait of Evelyn had fallen from the wall. Its frame was broken. Behind it was a small recess in the wall, and inside, a box. Arthur pried it open. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written in a woman's hand. They were addressed to T.G. and signed, Evelyn. The last one read, If my brother keeps me from you, I will go to the lake. Meet me there at midnight. Eleanor closed her eyes. She didn't fall. She went to meet him. And your father found her there. Arthur's face went pale. And killed her. Or she drowned trying to escape him. A sudden draft swept through the room. The candles went out. And in the darkness, a voice spoke, not whispering this time, but clear and anguished. Arthur, forgive him. Eleanor felt the air vibrate. Light flared from the portrait, though it now lay shattered on the floor, and in the glow stood Evelyn, more vivid than ever before. Her eyes were full of tears. Alistair appeared beside her, not in flesh, but in ghostly form. He knelt before her. I was a coward, he said. Forgive me, sister. Evelyn reached out a hand. When she touched his, both began to fade. Their voices echoed as one. It is done. and then the room fell silent. When dawn came, the air in Ravenshollow felt lighter, as if the walls themselves had sighed in relief. Eleanor and Arthur buried the box of letters near the lake, beneath the old stone marker. As they stood there, a single ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, touching the water. For the first time, the lake was calm. Arthur turned to her. "Will you stay?" Eleanor smiled faintly. "No. My story here is finished. But you could write about it again." She shook her head. "Some truths are sacred. Not every ghost belongs on paper." She left Ravenshollow that afternoon, walking down the long road through the mist. The manor loomed behind her, smaller now, almost peaceful. When she reached the gate, she looked back one last time. In an upstairs window, she thought she saw a figure, a woman in white, watching her go. But when she blinked, the window was empty. Years later, when Eleanor Whitby's name appeared in books and newspapers, people remembered her as the journalist who faced the supernatural without fear. But she never wrote another ghost story. And every year, on the anniversary of her first visit to Ravenshollow, she would light a single candle and let it burn until morning. Some nights, when the wind howled across London, she would swear she heard a voice whisper, "Thank you." And in her heart, she knew Evelyn Ravenshollow was finally free.